Afternoon, everyone. Good morning if you're on the West Coast or joining us anywhere around the world. I'm John Monarch. I'm with the Pesty Group. I'm the CIO here, and we're representing CHAINge today. So CHAINge is the event brought to you by ASCM. To give you a little background, it was formerly known as ASCM Connect, and we wanted to bring together operators in the supply chain, and now we've expanded this to be a very forward-looking event. And we recently just held CHAINge in Europe, in Brussels, just this past month, with the goal of bringing together operators, executives, logistics and supply chain leaders to discuss some of the most pressing issues that are facing at this most recent event, Europe especially, but globally. Uh, and what we wanted to go over today was kind of a perspective from a team that had attended in CHAINge Europe and will be attending in CHAINge North America. And they're some of our principal sponsors. And I'd like to introduce Andrei Quinn-Barabanov, the supply chain industry practice lead at Moody's. So Andrei, I'd love to hear about yourself.
Thanks, John. I love talking about myself. I'm a career supply chain professional, a practitioner. A key reason I'm actually very excited about the conference is because it really brings together practitioners. I attended last year's conference in Austin, Texas, and it was a fantastic gathering of supply chain and operations practitioners. And this year we have even more to talk about and more to discuss. My career mostly in supply chain. I spent 15 years at Raytheon. I was the head of supply chain risk management there. I'm finishing my third year at Moody's, and at Moody's I'm a customer-facing a leader of our supply chain risk solution. If there's a moment to do a plug for our offering, I'll do that. But for now, John, back to you.
Absolutely. So, I mean, especially risk right now, that's the number one topic, because it seems like risk is, everything seems like it's engaging in risk and risk management right now, especially everything from the Red Sea to dramatic supply chain shifts. I mean, just a few years ago, we had the shifts from COVID. And just as you said, we brought together all these operators and in a very educational setting, and it's how we can solve some of the biggest problems that are facing the industry today. And in Europe, your team attended, and I'm wondering what were their opinions of the event? What were some of the highlights that they really enjoyed?
Well, so you mentioned risks, right? The number one risk this year, I think, for most of us in supply chain is tariffs. Tariffs, kind of by definition, they're meant to disrupt the usual flow of supply chains and realign them. And realignment is a difficult thing in the world of supply chain. So where everybody in supply chain is affected, it's a topic for the first half of the year, but it's going to be a topic going into the future, because any kind of realignment, any kind of adjustment of supply chain takes many months and years often. So that's something that no doubt we'll be discussing in Columbus. And it was definitely a major topic of conversation at the Brussels gathering. My colleague Vitaliano Tobruk was representing Moody's at the conference, and he had a chance to lead a couple of roundtables. There was a lot less time than there were risks for his colleagues to discuss. So I really look forward to exchanging views on what's on our minds in terms of risks, but more importantly, what we can do about those risks, which ones we should be focused on, and which ones we should mitigate and how. Right in the end, talking about risks is fun, but it's a lot more satisfying to actually mitigate those risks.
Well, as you said, many of the supply chains, I mean, we're an industry that by nature, we've had to move slowly. because dramatic and sudden shifts can upend things unexpectedly. But now we're being expected to compress those timelines in a way that we've never had to work with before. And so I think that these types of meetings where we're bringing together people from all levels of the industry to come up with ideas that aren't necessarily, the orthodox, but at the same time, we have to get a little bit more experimental to address some of these like multifaceted risks that are coming.
Correct. Yeah. And I mean, some of the risks we face are technically not new. So tariffs is not a completely new situation, but none of us have really seen tariffs on any kind of significant scale in our lifetimes, certainly in our work lifetimes. So then as a result, there is not really a recipe you can follow. You have to figure out the recipe, and it's this work on ways to address problems that I think is going to be so interesting for us at the conference. So you're right. And the second also I think observation that's embedded in your question is that we have to deal with a number of risks interfering with supply chains at the same time. So yes, we have tariffs, but we also have sanctions, another major disruptor of supply chain relationships. For instance, we have mixed in there, we have our usual issues with a supplier having operational problems. And a supplier having operational problems is always the number one headache for us, right? Because in the end, our job in supply chain is to make sure that the supplier is not going to have any problems, right? That they're going to deliver on time and on budget. So addressing those traditional problems mixed with the disruptions that we have seen in recent times, that's going to make it particularly tricky, because we want to make sure that as we address one problem, we are not going to make other problems worse.
Well, especially as it seems the climate can change almost hour to hour at this point, where one moment there's 240% tariff risk, and then it's brought down at a meeting in Switzerland to 10%, and then it's back to 100%. And it just seems to shift so rapidly that people in the supply chain can't really predict it.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And for us in supply chain, it's particularly tricky, right? Because we really, our goal is predictability of relationships, right? You have a strong relationship with a supplier when it's a relationship that has a strong past and a promising future. So the continuity of the relationship, the predictability of the relationship is very important for us in supply chain. So dealing with circumstances where you cannot really fully predict what's going to happen is a major challenge. I will say that at Moody's, we put a lot of effort into doing our best predicting risks. Now, as you're implying correctly, there are risks that are unpredictable. We don't know what's going to happen at the next round of trade negotiations between two countries. Probably participants of the trade negotiation might not even really know what the outcome will be, right? But there are certain disruptions that we can predict, at least with a high probability, and that's what we focus at Moody's at. So for instance, we in particular focus on operational risks and operational difficulties that companies have. We are looking at their financial health as one of the predictors of their operational problems. So we try to do our part in predicting supply chain problems, but you're absolutely right. It's we have to accept that there is a degree of unpredictability in today's environment.
Well, we almost have to treat ourselves as scientists in a way, right? We have to remove as many confounding factors in the experiment as we can, but it becomes more and more challenging every day, it seems like. And in Columbus, is there something that you're really looking forward to learning or engaging with?
Yeah, so I consider myself a forever supply chain person, but I'm not currently a practitioner myself, right? So I work with practitioners every day. There are dozens of our customers with whom I have a close relationship, and I do my best to help them. But it's not the same as waking up to supply chain successes and failures. Well, particularly not fun to wake up to supply chain failures, as we all know. So I actually really miss it, and for me personally, it's just such a treat to meet people who live and breathe supply chain every day. So that's kind of from my personal point of view. But I think looking at it more broadly, I think we all are hungry for an exchange of opinions on how we tackle some of the challenges that all of us face, right? Like, as I said, with tariffs, for instance, there is no prescription. And if there is a prescription, let's distribute it to all of us in Columbus, right? But I think in all likelihood, we'll be feeling our way through the current situation and sort of sharing our opinions on what we can do and how we can tackle some of the risks. And of course, it's always fascinating to hear from colleagues about best practices. There are so many interesting things that supply chain people do across different industries. So I'm honestly really looking forward to it.
I think it's going to be very interesting because we have everyone from the practitioners, like you talk about, people who are running the warehouses day in and day out, or at the ports, or in the shipping companies, all the way up to former Gartner analysts and VPs to Secretary of Commerce, for instance, and Henrik von Schiele at the Fourth Industrial Revolution. So we give everyone that perspective. From the operators can see more about how the 30,000 foot view looks, and then the people who are at that view can really get a feel for what the boots on the ground are feeling every day when they work with this.
Correct. That's absolutely right. And I think it's only at a conference like this you have an opportunity to really mix with different people with different viewpoints and different types of stakes in supply chain. So it really is a rare opportunity because, for better or worse, in supply chain, we're often in the back office, right? And we are kind of often constrained to our function and functions in most direct contact with ourselves. So it's it always feels good to lift your head from your desk and talk more broadly and hear from people who have different angles on supply chain.
And it always seems like at a lot of events, it feels like just a lot of sales pitches. And that's one of the things that we've really tried to avoid, is making this a valuable learning experience for everyone at every level, and not feel like they're just being pitched to about buying the next big software solution.
Yeah, I mean, shameless commerce, right, is a way of life for for the world, right? But I think when you are surrounded by colleagues, right, you are less salesy, if you will. You're less focused on, oh, do I have a solution for you, right? And a lot more focused on trying to hear what they have to say, and learn how they are tackling problems. So I think it's going to be much more of a exchange of views and much less of, do I have the perfect solution for all your problems for you, right? So I don't think there will be as much of that as we see in some other places.
And that was some of the feedback we got at Europe, was that people really enjoyed the roundtables, the Chatham House rules, where
Correct.
it was confidential, right? Like we're not going into this to pitch each other, and you can actually be open about what you think the solution is without it being directly attributed to you. So that way you can keep more private, but also still speak your mind on the topic.
Yeah, and speaking your mind is, I think, crucial, because you can't really make progress on any kind of significant problem until you're pretty honest with people whose opinion you're getting as to kind of what really the problems are for you, right? If you're just talking around your problems, it's you're not gonna get much use out of the conversation. So yeah, so I think just having it as a conversation of peers and practitioners, I think is a great way to do it. So I really look forward to it.
We had a question about how one can register in ASCM, and to attend CHAINge North America, you can go to CHAINge.events, change.events, to check out information, see the speakers, who's attending, what companies are going to be there, and just generally get a good feel for the conference and register up. Andrei, really appreciate having you on. Would love to see if you have any feedback on, or like what you'd present Moody's offering is and what you're, looking forward to.
Yeah. So as I said, just look forward to connecting with colleagues. That's really sort of my most important interest. Of course, we'll be excited to talk about what Moody's is doing in the world of supply chain risk. As I said, we do a lot of interesting predictive work, so that usually is of interest. We have a solution that helps with tariffs as well. Just to be clear, not some miraculous solution, but a solution to one of the problems in the world of tariffs, the one that has to do with how to split the cost of tariffs, which is a crucial between us as customers and our suppliers, as well as several other modules to tackle risks in the world of supply chain that Moody's has. Moody's has a database of 550 million suppliers, so we're a very quantitative outfit that has scorecards for every supplier we have in our database. So I'm excited to talk about it. But again, this is not about commerce. This is really about peer conversations and hearing what everybody who comes to the conference is doing about the current issues. So thanks very much, John.
Absolutely. And thank you. And once again, we'd love to have everyone there. And if you'd love to meet with Andrei and the Moody's team, attend CHAINge North America. That's CHAINge.events. So you can check out the schedule, the attendees, who's speaking, and register. And we hope that you join us there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. And thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.